All right, today we're going to decode a secret language, one that basically runs global business as we know it. Now, it's not a programming language, but it's a system of incredibly powerful shortcuts called transaction codes, or T-codes, inside SAP. You can think of it as the secret command line for the world's biggest companies.
I mean, just think about that for a second. The scale is just mind-boggling. Imagine you're trying to coordinate sales, check inventory, schedule a delivery, and then send an invoice for millions of different items all over the world, all at the same time. How does that not just completely fall apart?
Well, the answer is a super structured system, and that system speaks the language of T-codes. To an outsider, it just looks like a random string of letters and numbers. But once you learn to translate it, well, you can control the entire flow of commerce. And that's exactly what we're about to do.
Okay, here's our game plan. We're going to start in the engine room, where all the core rules get built. Then, we'll follow the money and see how sales connects to finance. After that, we'll actually trace a single order's journey from start to finish, give you an expert troubleshooting kit, and wrap it all up with the consultant's mindset. Let's do this!
First up, building the system's brain. Now, this isn't about just processing one order. This is about setting the rules for every single order. This is the engine room, where just a few key T-codes end up controlling everything that happens out there on the front lines.
And right at the heart of that engine room is VO-VET. This is where you literally define what an order even means in your business. Is it a standard sale? Is it a customer return? Maybe it's a cash sale that needs to be delivered like right now. You're not just creating a label here, you are designing the entire business process from start to finish.
And check this out, it's like a perfect chain reaction. A decision you make in VOV8 for the order type that directly determines what happens with the item category in VOV7. And that, in turn, dictates the schedule line in VOV6, which controls whether the system even checks for inventory or maybe triggers a whole new production run. It's just a beautiful cascade of logic.
So you have all these documents. How does the information get from one to the next? That is where copy control comes in. Think of it as the system's traffic police. It stands there and dictates exactly which pieces of information, like prices or customer details or dates, are allowed to copy from an order over to a delivery, and then from that delivery to the final invoice. If you can master this, you can solve a massive number of those, hey, my data is missing problems. You know, this brings us to a classic business problem. Sales, they want to sell everything, right? Even the stuff that's still on a container ship somewhere. But production, they want to hang on to safety stock, just in case. So how does the system actually know what it can confidently promise to a customer when they place an order? The answer is in a transaction called OVZ9. This is where the business hammers out its available to promise, or ATP strategy. Do you want to include purchase orders that haven't even arrived yet? What about safety stock? See, this T-code isn't just some technical setting, it's the digital handshake. It's that crucial compromise between the sales team and the production floor. Okay, so we've built the core logic of the system. Now, let's do what's really important. Let's follow the money. This next part is all about connecting our sales activities to the company's financial books. At the core of all pricing is basically a step-by-step calculator. The system uses what's called a pricing procedure. It starts with a base price, then it subtracts any discounts, calculates a subtotal, adds the right tax, and boom, it gets to the final value. Every single step is perfectly controlled and totally auditable. But, a price is pretty useless if you don't know where to book the revenue in your accounting system. And that is where VKOA comes in. This T-code is the critical bridge to the finance department. It maps all those conditions from our pricing calculator directly to the correct general ledger accounts. So, if an invoice ever gets created but it fails to post to accounting, VKOA is always, and I mean always, the first place a real expert is going to look.
All right, so we've built the brain and we've connected it to the company's wallet. Now, let's actually watch it work by following one single order on its journey, all the way from creation to cash in the bank.
This right here is the daily life of the system. It all kicks off with VA01, where someone creates a sales order. That sends a signal to the logistics team to create a delivery in VL01N. Then, using VL20N, they post the goods issue. That's the moment the product officially leaves your inventory. And finally, that event gives the green light for finance to create the invoice in VF01. Now, this is a really critical point. Posting the goods issue in VL02N, that's kind of the point of no return. It physically reduces your inventory and it posts the cost of those goods to finance. You can't just delete it.
To undo this step, you have to use a completely separate, very specific transaction, VL09. It's the system's official one and only undo button.
Okay, so things are going to go wrong. It's inevitable. How do the experts figure out what's happening under the hood? Well, they use a special set of tools. And honestly, this kit right here is what separates a junior person from a senior consultant.
The most powerful tool of all is SE16N. This thing lets you completely bypass the nice, user-friendly front-end screens and look directly at the raw data sitting in the database tables. When the user interface is hiding something, or you just need to see the absolute unvarnished truth, you go to tables like VBAK for order details or VBFA to see the entire history of a document.
Okay, here's a scenario that every single consultant faces probably every day. You get a frantic call from a user and they say, "The system won't let me do my job. I have a permission error." What do you do?
Your first response should always be this. You tell them, the instant that error pops up, run transaction SU53 and send me a screenshot. What this does is generate a perfect report showing the exact authorization check that failed. That one screenshot tells the security team precisely what they need to fix. It saves hours, literally hours, of guesswork.
So, let's bring this all home now. Knowing a bunch of T-codes is one thing, but using them effectively, that really requires a specific way of thinking. This is what we call the consultant's mindset.
So, the expert mindset for troubleshooting is to always trace problems backward. You start with the result, the wrong data you see in the tables. Then you check the process. Did the user run the transaction correctly? If they did, then you check the variables. Is the master data for the customer or the product set up right? And if all of that looks good, then you know with certainty the problem has to be in the foundational rules themselves, the configuration.
So there you have it. We've translated the secret language and we've taken a tour of the engine room. These T-codes, they're so much more than just commands. They're the actual blueprints for how a massive global business operates. The only question left is, now that you can read them, what are you going to build?